5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Liftoff. On the shoulders of Atlas, the SS Deke Slayton II Orbital ATK Cygnus spacecraft soars toward the International Space Station.
Q has gone to closed loop control.
Good evening and welcome to NASA's Kennedy Space Center in Florida, where we are pleased to be here for the Orbital ATK CRS-4 post-launch news conference. It took us a few days to get here, but it was worth every minute of it. It was a fabulous launch and the mission is underway. And here to fill us in on the progress of this mission already, we're pleased to be joined by Ven Phen, Manager of the International Space Station Transportation Integration Office. Frank Culbertson, President, Space Systems Group for Orbital ATK. And Vern Thorpe, Program Manager for NASA Missions for United Launch Alliance. Everyone is represented here. It's a great day. We'd like to start off with opening comments, and then we'll be happy to take your questions. Ven?
Well, thanks, Mike, and good evening, everybody. Let's see, it's a real pleasure to be here right after a spectacular launch. I wanted to congratulate and thank our partners at Orbital ATK, at ULA, as well as the range for the spectacular launch tonight of the OA-4 Cygnus. The teams did a tremendous job processing and integrating over the last year, and especially over the last week, in keeping the vehicle in a very high state of readiness leading to today's launch. The ISS on orbit is in a very good configuration. We're ready for grapple by the Canadian arm and berthing to the Node 1 nadir on Wednesday around 6:10 a.m. Eastern. The onboard crew is ready and trained. Kjell Lindgren is going to be the prime robotics operator. Scott Kelly, the one-year mission crew member, is going to be the mission support, robotics support officer, and he's also ready to go, as are the mission control teams in Houston, as well as our payload ops team in Huntsville. OA-4 marks the beginning of a very busy month at the space station. The Cygnus arrival on December 9th is going to be quickly followed by a departure just 2 days later of 43 Soyuz on December 11th. Then 4 days later, we'll have arrival of 45 Soyuz on December 15th. 4 days later, we'll have undocking of 60P on December 19th, and then we'll have arrival of 62P on December 23rd. And then thankfully, we go into a high beta period. We'll have no more dockings or undockings or EVAs until at least January 3rd. So on board OA-4, we've got over 3,500 kilograms of hardware. That includes spare parts, consumables, research hardware, and samples that are going to enable over 300 experiments during this increment pair. All this resupply is going to get our food and other consumable supplies out there into the April, May, and beyond time frame. So again, we're very excited to see Cygnus back in orbit. It's a great day for the space station and for commercial spaceflight. And thanks very much to the very capable and professional teams at Orbital ATK, ULA, and the range. And with that, I'll hand it off to Frank.
Thanks very much, Vin. And it is a great day for us. We, as a company, and speaking on behalf of Dave Thompson and the entire Orbital ATK team, we are very proud to be back in space again. Very proud of the work that everyone has done, not just in our company, but in our partners at ULA, NASA, the range, sticking with it all week to get us off the ground. But it's very exciting to finally be headed to the International Space Station again. We do have some more work ahead of us, of course, to arrive at the station, safely approach, and be grappled by the arm and berthed to the station. But we're very optimistic that's going to go very well, and looking forward to the next few days' operations. We are carrying over 3,500 kilograms of cargo, which is almost as much as we've carried on the prior 3 missions to the station. So this is the beginning of a new era in carrying large quantities to the station to keep the crew supplied and keep the experiments going. So far, things have gone very well. The solar arrays have been deployed. The prop system is working well. Guidance, navigation, and control are working, and everything is basically nominal on board the Deke Slayton II. Team is doing a handover about as we speak to the next team, and for on-orbit ops, and we'll continue to monitor the spacecraft as we approach the station. We do have another mission expected in March of next year and another one later in the spring. So we have already begun preparations for that, and looking forward to additional work. But right now we're focused on the great ride that we had from ULA, Vern and company. Thank you very much. Everything was about as good as it could get, and I'll blow his horn for a second. We were within 100 meters of the apogee and perigee we needed in order to get into orbit safely. That's pretty darn close. So good job. And of course, the team did a great job working through the launch countdown attempts and staying on track and staying focused, and it paid off today. So I'm looking forward to your questions. Be happy to elaborate on any of this. But in the meantime, go Deke Slayton 2, go OA4, and we're real happy to be back in space. Thank you. And now over to Vern.
Hey, thanks, Frank. Well, that was an incredible launch, and it took us less than a year to get from the kickoff of this program to launch tonight. For a few days there, I was wondering if I was going to be able to say that. We had to wait a few days for the weather. When you saw the vehicle lift off tonight, you can see why wind drift was a bit of a concern. Some people say it rises slowly. I prefer the word majestic, but that's what slowed us down the last few days. I want to say congratulations to NASA, to Orbital ATK, to the ULA team, and to all of our families who support us through every one of these launch campaigns. We couldn't do it without them. I would also like to give a big thank you to the Air Force's 45th Space Wing and to the FAA, who were with us every step of the way on this. We need their support as well, and we really appreciate that. ULA is especially proud of this launch. This is our first mission to the ISS. And we put the Cygnus module into a low Earth orbit loaded with almost 8,000 pounds of cargo, as Frank said. And some interesting numbers here. We launched OA4 on our 4th attempt at 4:44 local time. So I guess the numbers just all lined up right today. Orbit insertion was very accurate. We put the Cygnus module into an orbit with an inclination of 51.6 degrees for phasing with the ISS, of course, and we put them into a circular orbit at an altitude of 124 nautical miles. And now that we've handed it off, they'll take it from here. One of our chief engineers did a little research right after the launch. This is, we usually don't have to have this many attempts to launch. The last time it took 4 attempts to get an Atlas off the pad was in August of 2004. That one actually took 5. I am happy to say, though, that the vehicle, the Atlas vehicle and the Cygnus vehicle were healthy and ready to go every time. We just had to wait for the weather conditions to be right, and that finally happened tonight. We delivered Cygnus after a flawless mission of the Atlas V vehicle, and that caps off a perfect year of 12 launches for ULA. And that really speaks to the amazing people we have at ULA and our strong relationships with our partners and customers. Sustained mission success, and by the way, this is our 103rd ULA launch, is only possible when our customer and the entire industry team, that includes ULA and all of our suppliers, are seamlessly integrated and focused on safely and reliably delivering these critical payloads to orbit. And you've heard us say this before, ULA is committed to success one launch at a time, and we do that for this and every mission for our customers. So thanks again to all of our mission partners who worked with us to make this OA4 Atlas V mission a success. I can hardly wait to be back here in 3 months. We're going to do it again for OA6 in March. And we've got 16 missions on our manifest next year, and ULA is looking forward to another great year. Thanks.
All right. Thank you, gentlemen. Before we take your questions, there is a launch picture that we would like to show to you. This is a picture taken by Commander Scott Kelly from the International Space Station as it was flying over near the Bahamas, showing launch of the Atlas V rocket with Cygnus headed his way. And through the
little dot at the bottom of the picture.
The little dot at the bottom of the picture is the rocket with the plume. Through the amazing social media, we have a picture of the from the International Space Station of the vehicle headed toward the International Space Station. So now we would like to take your questions. Here in the room, please wait for the microphone. State your name and affiliation and to whom you're addressing your question. And also wanted to let you know that it's been a long day and a long several days for these folks, so we want to try to keep it short this evening. Let's start things off over here with Jason.
Jason Ryden for SpaceflightInsider.com. This one goes to Frank real quick. We heard a lot about Atlas's performance allowing so much to be hoisted aloft to the ISS, but we know that the enhanced Antares is also going to have quite a punch to it. Can you, maybe not giving up too much of the secret sauce, talk about a comparison between what Atlas V is capable of as well as the new Antares we're looking forward to seeing with launch with OA5?
They're basically in the same ballpark, within a few 100 kilograms.
James?
Oh, thanks. James Dean, Florida Today. I was actually going to ask about that Scott Kelly photo. I was just curious if any of you guys had a chance to speak directly with the crew, after launch. And
I've exchanged emails with Scott, and he's real happy to see that coming his way.
Emails. Okay, thanks. I was also just curious if you had not been able to get off today, would that have made things really difficult, complicated? Would you have been in a situation where you loitered for weeks potentially, or any idea when you could have got to the station if you hadn't made it by today?
Actually, we've been working very closely with Vin and his team, looking at options if we were not able to launch today. As it stands now, we'll be able to approach the station on the morning of the 9th. The morning of the 10th was the cutoff for actually being able to berth the Cygnus with the station. Excuse me, the 9th was the cutoff. The 10th, we really wouldn't have time to berth because of crew operations. However, we had reached an agreement where we would be able to approach the station, reach the berthing point or the grapple point, be grappled, and then just remain on the arm until they could open open up enough time in the crew's schedule to berth us to Node 2. If we had gone later than that, then we may have had to loiter for a week or so before we could have approached the station. But we had sufficient fuel for that.
Hi, Ken Kramer, Universe Today and Northeast Astronomy Forum. A quick one for Frank and Vern. Frank, is this the most thrilling, exciting Cygnus launch you've ever seen, given the mishap and the recovery? And Vern, I'm wondering, okay, this is the first ISS launch, so did this give you a nice jump on launches for commercial crew? Did it provide some good lessons learned? Thanks.
They're all exciting, Ken, and every single one of them. And yeah, it's great to be back in space and have Cygnus up there, have the team working on what we are committed to doing. But they're all very exciting.
Yeah, and we're looking forward to flying cargo missions in a few years. This mission definitely gave us a head start on that through our partnership with Orbital ATK. We're starting to do that, I guess, roughly about a year and a half, 2 years earlier than we otherwise might have. Lessons learned, certainly if we fly additional cargo missions for Orbital ATK, those would essentially be reflights, so lots of lessons learned that would apply there. And lessons learned in general, yeah, a few of those too. Probably the biggest one is an understanding of the scheduling and manifesting of activities at the ISS. We got a lot of insight into that, which was necessary for us to coordinate our launch date with ISS operations. They have a manifesting process that's kind of similar to ours, but they're driven by totally different issues. But that'll help us in the future as well.
Take a question here.
Philip Sloss with NASAspaceflight.com for Mr. Cullerton. Can you talk about the far-field rendezvous runs you're going to be doing over the next couple of days to get you set up to do the Wednesday rendezvous?
Well, I don't know how much detail you want. We'll be going through the normal process of approaching the station from below. We'll arrive at a point about 250 meters from the station early on the morning of the 9th after going through several phasing burns. We'll, of course, be monitoring the systems on board as we do that. And then, of course, once we get in range, we'll pick up the communications directly from the station so that the crew has insight into what we're doing. And, of course, Houston will be watching what we're doing. Once we receive the go from Mission Control in Houston to continue the approach to the station, we will do that autonomously and until we hit a couple of pause points on the way in, and then continue all the way into about 10 meters, where the crew will then be able to grapple us and put us in position for berthing.
Jason?
Jason Ryan, SpaceflightInsider.com again. This one goes to Vern. You guys are working with Boeing to launch Starliner pretty soon to the ISS. Was tonight's flight any way like a precursor, or maybe a little chance to get your feet wet on that effort?
I think it kind of goes to what I said before. Getting that insight into how NASA develops their schedule and manages their schedule and their manifest at the ISS was very insightful for us. All that will apply whether we're flying cargo or crewed missions to the station in the future. So in some sense, this was a very unique mission for us. On the other hand, we've flown plenty of low Earth orbit missions in the past. So from a technical standpoint, it was not too far outside of our experience. But from a programmatic standpoint and working with this particular set of customers, it was a good learning experience.
James?
James Dean, Florida Today again. Frank, any idea when the next Cygnus, any Cygnus modules will be delivered down here to KSC for the next flight? And for Ven, I wanted to ask you if, assuming Cygnus reaches ISS successfully as planned, does that change your thinking about when you want the next SpaceX mission to launch?
We expect both components of the spacecraft to be here sometime in January, and we'll begin the process again of integrating them, loading the cargo, and going through the same process we did leading up to this one.
Yeah, in regards to SpaceX, yeah, no, we're looking forward to having them whenever they're ready to come to station. They've got some external, the beam payload on that flight, as well as we've got some rodent research. So because of their return capability and their external capability, we'll be looking forward to having them at station as soon as they're ready.
And James, one other thing to add, it's been a learning process for us in terms of integrating the cargo and the spacecraft here, and I want to thank the Kennedy Space Center, Bob Cabana, and his leadership in providing the facilities and the people to help us with that. I think they were excited to have space station components here again and loading cargo, but we were also excited to work with them and learn from them, and it's gone very, very smoothly in the space station processing facility.
Hey, Tom Rothmel with the NASA Social. We saw the picture from Commander Kelly of it, and there's been some reports online of people having seen the two vehicles together. How far is Cygnus away from the space station at the moment?
It's thousands of kilometers away, so I doubt they saw them together. They very well could have seen Cygnus or the launch vehicle as it went up the east coast of the United States. Don't know whether it would have been seen over Europe once they had separated. Because you had the Centaur doing its thing for re-entry and Cygnus doing its thing to continue its rendezvous with the station. So they may have seen two spacecraft if the lighting was right over Europe.
Hi, Ken Kramer, Universe Today again for Frank. Curious if you hadn't launched today and you had to loiter a while in space, perhaps up to a month. Actually, I'm wondering how comfortable do you feel with the Cygnus loitering in space? As far as its systems, I mean, that obviously brings a little bit of, possibility that something could go awry. I wonder how. So, talk a little bit about that, please.
Actually, the spacecraft is designed to last a long time in orbit. It's based on our heritage spacecraft components that are designed for up to 15 years of operation in space. So we're very comfortable with loitering if we need to do that. This particular mission, we have plenty of fuel to do that. And we are looking forward on future missions to staying in space for anywhere from a week to 6 months, if necessary, on some missions to conduct other experiments post-berthing with the ISS. So the spacecraft is designed to stay in space for a long time, and we're very comfortable doing that.
So, but I understand post departure, but more I'm interested in before arrival. You still feel very comfortable if you would have to loiter for a month in orbit?
Well, you have to balance a lot of different factors here in terms of launch vehicle availability, launch window availability, the future schedule coming down the line. Getting off the pad is generally a really good thing, even if you have to stay in space for a while. And we're in a pretty calm situation when we're in space, waiting for the rendezvous. We got plenty of power and plenty of fuel. We don't use very much per day. It's just a matter of maintaining the station, keeping with the station at a fairly long distance, and then being ready to come in when they say they're ready for us. So we're pretty comfortable doing that, and in most situations, I'd rather go ahead and get off the pad when we've got the opportunity, all things being equal.
Okay, we're going to end things here. Really appreciate you coming over, and congratulations once again on a very successful launch and beginning of the Orbital ATK CRS-4 mission. Thank you all for coming as well. The next major event related to the mission will be the Grapple on Wednesday, December 9th by Kjell Lindgren using the space station arm, and NASA Television will provide live coverage of the grapple. The grapple should occur at approximately 6:10 a.m. Eastern Time. Between now and then, you can keep track of mission developments by going to the web at www.nasa.gov/orbitalatk. Thank you very much for coming.